Cool. Right, so what we're going with? Blue Light Banter.
Blue Light Banter. I
Well,
like it.
Welcome everyone to episode 1 of the Blue Light Banter podcast. Joined by Emma Corwood,
Currently
legend.
looking an absolute Oompa Loompa because I've got fake tan on.
She does have fake tan on. She has fake tan on for what?
My photo shoot tomorrow.
Photo shoot tomorrow. It's going to be looking epic. Be looking absolutely.
Yeah, just get these bad boys out.
How are you feeling?
Hungry.
I can imagine.
Tired. Depleted. Flat. Flat is a good word.
I'm feeling very flat today as well. I was in the gym this morning. I was feeling a bit flat, but I'm also exceptionally hungry. That's why I'm having San Pellegrino. Diet tip number 1: sparkling water with diluting juice is.
I don't know where mine is.
What?
I don't know where mine is. I've got some sparkling water somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
I literally just drink stuff. That's literally all I've got. Kind of C4, sparkling water. Right. Anyways, so the purpose of this episode is so that people can get to know Emma a bit better. I feel like we need to do a reverse one as well, where you interview me.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So, where did you grow up? Number 1.
I grew up in Nottingham. It's called Ainsley Estate, which is a lovely place, full of yobs. Not so much then, more is now, but yeah, that's where originally I grew up. But I've moved down to Kent now for the police, basically, but I'm still here.
Cool. How was it growing up? Were you well behaved or were you very naughty?
I was good, actually. I was a good girl. My mum and dad kind of always brought me up to be quite respectful and stuff. So I was always really good. I had a little bit of a moment when I was about 16 to 18 when I was just being a little shit and being a bit rebellious. And then that kind of stopped as soon as I went to uni and realised that actually I wanted to get a job rather than be in prison for the rest of my life. So
yeah, I think that happens to everyone though, doesn't it? You all go through that sort of stage of being an arsehole. You
listen to Akon and think it's like really cool to be in prison, and then you're like, no, it's not.
Definitely not. Especially when you then move into the police and you see how these people actually live.
Yeah.
So what did you then do at university?
So I've studied criminology at uni. My mum and dad kind of always taught me that actually they wanted me to have a degree. I think that's the only reason I did it, was to please them, really. If I was to go back now, I probably wouldn't do it because I don't think I've ever a criminology degree at all. I would say, I used it to be in the police, but you don't need a degree to be in the police. Well, you do now, but you didn't when I joined.
And they're not getting away with that, though. I thought they were doing away with the degree now because it was too much for studying.
I don't know. Well, I've got a few clients that are doing it, so I don't know whether it's still kind of...
But I had a few who were doing it, but then they said that the forces were getting away with or doing away with it for the new clerks and stuff. But
it's
a lot to do, though, isn't it? Like, see if you're going through your probation and you've then got to do on top of it.
And it's 3 years probation as well. It's a load of tosh. You got to do your work. You got to do normal policing and then come home after doing shift work and do your degree. It's just something.
And all your normal probation stuff on top.
And get you signed off.
It's pointless, isn't it? And also, like, if everyone then has the degree, surely it's something you should be able to choose to do if you want to do, like, promotions or whatever. Like, that makes more sense, doesn't it?
I think something where they can go, our police are properly educated. When actually, I've met some cracking police officers that they've got basically GCSEs and barely got them. So, does it matter? Yeah. I never worked with you though, so you might be an absolute shit copper, but...
I had the highest record of work in my division for proactive returns whilst I was on me. Outside of all proactive units, VRU, proactive crime team, I had the highest record of work. Me.
Go around nicking innocent people though, going, I found a baggie on you. And
street drinkers, 5-2, Misuse of Drugs Act, possession charges.
I love it.
A couple of good 5-3s, but then we did start to get into trouble. It was me and my neighbour, to be fair, who was super keen on the drug stuff as well. And we actually started to get into trouble because we would always go out and just get involved in something immediately. And our inspector at the time would like pull us in because the other folk on the shift, who were all lazy bastards, to be fair, wouldn't go out and actually do anything. They would go to a call, go back and sit in the office, go to a call, go back and sit in the office. We would do like 10, 12 plus vehicle stops in a night, go up to the Braes, try and get folk taking stuff.
Yeah.
He then gave us into trouble because other people on the shift were getting annoyed that we would sort of proactively get our own work, and they were going to calls. I was like, well,
Yeah, same with me. I was too proactive in getting stuff. They stopped me from doing it after a while. Okay.
But my very very first tutor told me you need to get like a star. So we had like crime management, and you basically had it was like a star. So you had like your record of work sort of thing, and you would go in, and then like if it was a case and you had like a positive sort of crime almost, you would get like a star next to it. And he used to just say you need to get like a star a day. So if it was something there was enough evidence to get somebody charged, then yeah, you get a star a day. So that's what I used to do. Minimum. So, yeah, all good.
Weird way of working, isn't it? We never used to
we
get
did we did work in Fergusley Park and Paisley, to be fair, so it was kind of easy because about taking stuff. So
not Folkestone in Kent then.
no. But then Folkestone, you might get a lot of good stuff coming into Folkestone, no?
It was, to be fair, there was. I'd say the more North Kent you go, you get better stuff. But actually, you got like, if you knew where to sit, you get the drug dealers. If you knew where to sit, you get the drivers. So I just kind of used to utilise my shift in the correct way, really. Got called to a call, then you couldn't really do it. But
Yeah, which is annoying. Before you were in the police, you were in the military.
Is Army.
When? Yeah.
2000 February the 13th, 2012. I started. I did my basic training. Go on.
Okay. I was going to say, like, what's the script of that? How does it work? So you go and do basic training first, is that?
So I did my 14 weeks basic training at Pirbright. So these days, so basically, when I was a kid, I played football, I did karate and all that sort of stuff. So I was very sporty. I've always been quite sporty. Always been quite naturally good at sports. I'd never stepped foot into a gym at that point. When I applied for the army, I started going to the gym. Didn't have a clue. Rock up, go 20 minutes on the treadmill, run 20 minutes on a treadmill, and then just make my way around all the machines. Just like, didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But actually, I got into a quite good shape doing it, which is really strange because my eating habits were shite. I got into really good nick. So I ended up going to Pirbright in my basic training, coming like second out of everybody, all the girls in the platoon in a mile and a half. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm one of the fitter ones here. And I passed all that, passed out. I can't remember now. May? I've got a little t-shirt with it on still. Passed out in May. Went and did my phase 2 training in Blandford in Dorset. So for signals, and that's kind of where I started struggling with my weight again because I just got a bit lazy because it kind of. Pardon?
What is signals?
It's like PT for the army.
No, okay.
Yeah, I just got quite lazy there. I'm really lazy. Like because you're spending 9 months there, then you made you do PT twice a week. You just got super lazy. I was really fit when I turned up, and the thing that so basically I nearly died in the army. So that was kind of the turning point for my fitness. So I basically went on this run. It was a really, really hot day, hotter than you didn't know, but hotter than like the other day when it was like 25 degrees. It was probably like 27 plus degrees. And in the army, they're quite big on heat injuries. But this woman just didn't give a flying piss about me. Or about anyone. So we were meant to go on a 3-mile run. She took us on a 6-mile run. I got to literally just before the end and I blacked out. I can't remember anything. Yeah, my lights turned off, mate.
Fuck it. I was professional. I didn't have a light on, mate. So
I know I wasn't. So I think it's on a timer. But yeah, so I blacked out, can't remember anything. Apparently I was kind of stumbling about, but I can't remember any of this. And I got rushed into the med centre and I got rushed on blue lights to the hospital. And I came round in the med centre. I realised what was going on in the med centre, and apparently my temperature had spiked so high, my organs started shutting down. And I was hospital. I was on drips in hospital. I ended up discharging myself because I didn't want to be there. I took the drip out of my arm because I was so out of it. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know my name. I didn't know my birthday. I didn't know what I'd eaten that day. I didn't know anything.
Not anyone with you in hospital to make sure you didn't do that.
No, nothing. I had literally myself. I didn't know. I was, bearing in mind, I was quite young still, but 22, still very young.
Hmm.
And all I wanted to do was go back to training because I knew I had an exam the next day. That's all I knew. That's all I could remember. So I pulled the drip out of my arm and I just walked out of the hospital. Rang one of my mates and I was like, you need to come and pick me up. So they came to pick me up. I turned up for my exam, passed it, and then nearly collapsed again. Basically sent me to the med centre for like 3 days, 4 days. The doctor called me in and she was just like, you really need to go and look after yourself. She's basically took me off all physical activity for 4 months because she was like,
were you overweight at the time then? Is that what they were saying?
no, I was like I am now, probably a little bit heavier, tiny bit heavier. But I was still very fit at that point. But at that point, they basically says no physical activity. You're not allowed to do anything. And it turned out, yeah, basically nearly died. And I got put on drips over the weekend to just kind of get levels back up to normal. I had to go through all this testing for heat injury sort of thing. And it was just.
And then you moved into the PTI side of things in the army, didn't you?
Yeah, so I got a little bit fat after that. So 4 months off is going to make you a bit fat. And then I fractured my hip. So that made me a bit fat. And then, I say fat, I just got a little bit overweight. And for me, because I'm only 5'1", it shows on me really easily. But eventually got to my unit after I'd recovered from my injury and stuff. Started training hard. I got into boxing. My boxing coach I got really fit because I just concentrated. Again, didn't know what the hell I was doing at the time. I just run and I would lift weights and looked quite good at the end of it. So my boxing coach put me forwards for a PTI slot in the gym. So basically it's like doing what we do now, but face to face for soldiers. And you had to go on like quite an intensive 9-week course for it. You had to pass you had to run a 1.5 miles in under 9. I did it in 8:30. So.
Well, at least good.
Yeah, it was 5.
Very good.
I think it was. I used to be rapid. I used to be really quick. And press ups and sit ups, and then we had to do like a 8-mile loaded march, 15-minute miles with 25 kilos. Which is heavy when you're my size. Yeah, test. I'm not the strongest swimmer, so I don't know. I think I just drowned gracefully on it. Yeah. Got through it, did the 9 weeks, got my level 2 PT qualification, worked in the gym for kind of most of my time, wanted to go to the PT corps in the army, so that's basically like a gym manager for the army. So you're super fit. But in the end, I just thought I got handpicked to go to Winchester, which is to train all the soldiers. This is like 7 years into my career, bearing in mind. So I'd done a lot. I'd been on tour and stuff beforehand. But I went to Winchester, trained all the newly appointed soldiers up. And at that point, I basically was like, I'm kind of bored now. I've done everything I wanted to do. Went on tour. I got a medal. I'd, got my PTIs. I'd been to Winchester, become a corporal, and I was just kind of done. I was like, why am I doing this now? I'm not getting any younger, basically. And the police has always been something to interest me because when I was at uni, I was a special, so I did that for 3 years at uni as well. So I've always had a really keen interest in it. So I just applied for Humberside. They accepted me. They basically told me a start date, and then they said, no, actually, they withdrew it. So basically, when you sign off from the army to say that you want to leave, you have to give a year's notice. A lot can happen in a year. It's horrible. It's a horrible countdown. Then I think it was about 6 months before I was going to leave. They basically says, no, we haven't got any spaces now. We're not taking anybody on. So I was like, fuck. And then I got in touch with somebody. So I spoke to one of my mates who got in touch with their brother-in-law who lives down in Kent. And he is firearms still. he basically let me come for a look around and basically said, "Do you want to come with the scope of joining firearms eventually?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I joined Kent. Enjoyed response. Probably should have never left response.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really fit when I joined the police. Kept my fitness up all throughout training. And shifts kind of me. It kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, really.
How long were you in for before you moved to firearms?
So I spent my last year on firearms.
So you've done 4 years in the shift and then 1 year into firearms.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
What did you
sorry,
What did you prefer out of firearms and response?
response 100%.
What did you not like about the fire? Because there's quite a lot of folk I speak to who are interested in firearms roles. I think always sounds sexier than it is. I think for a
Don't
lot
get
of
me
them. What did
scope to be really good, and
Mhm.
my team I absolutely adored. Like really, I love my team, and you do lean on them a lot more because you're put in situations that you're not normally put into. Yeah, you put into
Mhm.
scary situations with your response team. But when
Mhm.
someone's potentially behind the door with a gun in their hand, I think you create stronger bonds with your team a little bit.
Yeah.
Numbers were so short
Mhm.
nationally, really, for firearms officers, but it didn't help. And I can say this now, and I'll say this, and this can be posted wherever it wants. The SLT were a bag of shite. They
Mhm.
were horrible. They were always driving numbers. They were like, "No, we need more arrests," and I'm like, "We're here for firearms incidents." And I always remember
Yeah.
a firearms incident coming in, and we were all tied up in custody with somebody. And I was just like, well, what happens now? But actually, as a firearms team, we made it work. And I was like,
Mhm.
why are we even making it work? What, like,
Yeah.
this is just proven to the SLT that we can make it work when actually it's just stressful. It's putting stress on other people.
Mhm.
Um, but he was just all about driving numbers. Why haven't you put 5 intelligence reports in today? And you're like, hold on a
Mhm.
minute. That's because I've been dealing with a firearms job. So
And it kind
it
of
was,
defeats the purpose of these things if you're just doing them for numbers, doesn't it?
yeah,
Like,
and they basically firearms was really good for overtime, like super good for
yeah.
overtime, and started extending our shifts to 12 hours. Which again, it's okay for overtime, but I actually didn't. I wanted to come and see my family. So when you're doing 7 days on the bounce at 12 hours, it just got a little bit too much. But they would often cancel rest days over 14 days in advance, so they didn't have to pay you, and then just give you a day in lieu that you could never take. So
Yeah. And then you
that was
eventually get paid for those days in lieu.
no. I left when I left. Kent Police took money off me. They basically, yeah, they took £1,500 off me.
What for?
And they basically says that they were like, "You've had
I feel
too
like I'm
much
going to
leave."
put this and tag Kent Police in this.
Yeah. Well, I had too much leave. I was just like, I said, that's fine. I said, but did you put this down as compassionate? I had 2 weeks compassionate because it's down as normal leave. They were like, no, we didn't put it down as compassionate. And I was just like, well, why? I was just like, why didn't you put it down as compassionate? Because I said, it's just down as annual leave. So if
That's
I'd
the
have got
thing,
the,
though. I always think the police, like, see when stuff like that suits them, like they just push for it and push for it and push for it. But see if you miss like an overtime claim, no one ever. Oh, by the way, you're owed like X amount of money from this overtime claim.
well, I put it to them as well. I was like, I clocked in half an hour before shift, every shift. So firearms, especially, spent a year coming in half an hour early so he could hand over cars, get guns
Mm-hmm.
ready, and things like that. And I says, and the amount of times I've stayed 45 minutes late, clocked off 45 minutes late, and you wouldn't pay me because it's not on the hour. I said, do all those times over 5 years equate? And
Mm-hmm.
they were like, it doesn't count. I was like, how does it not
Yeah.
count? Because,
However, it would count if you were leaving half an hour early and coming in half an hour late
yeah,
and claiming you worked a full shift. It'd be
hindsight.
fraudulent. It would be fraudulent, wouldn't it?
Honestly, hindsight, I would just turn up on time, like skin in my teeth, and leave
Mm-hmm.
if they didn't. If I was at something, I'd be like, I'd just get in the car and go, because I'd be like,
Yeah.
well, you're not paying me, and at the end of this, you're just going to fuck me over. So
I think
it's
that's
yeah,
where like goodwill stuff goes now in the job though, because you don't really get that anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like I think now everything's just so specific. Like even when like lockdown and that happened, we got told to put, like, I didn't even think about putting overtime claims in, but I was in like a proactive unit, and then we went back to the shift, and I was told by one of the supervisors, you need to put claims through because the shifts now are like 2 hours extra. So he was like, put claims in for all the 2 hours that you've put in. So I just like, all right, so I just put claims in for these things. Haven't been instructed to do it, and then they actually thought it was like fraudulent claims that I was putting in. And I was like, see, if you just bin the claims, and they were like, oh, we're going to check like your radio like times and all this. And I was like, why? Like, he told me to do it. I didn't know there was anything wrong with me doing it. So, aye,
Yeah.
it's piss. And that was the thing. I was always in, like, even when I went back to the shift for that, like the probationers and that were coming in into muster with their boots untied, with their stab vests sitting wide open, and I would already be in muster, having looked at like crime reports, having looked at the intel, having looked at the briefing,
Yeah.
half an hour, 45 minutes early, and you think it's not the real issue. Like, the real issue is these folk coming in now who are not being taught to come in early. And like when we were probationers, we used to have to come in and make tea and coffee,
Yeah.
get like load up the briefing slides and all that, and almost like present muster in front of your supervisors and your inspectors and all that. Like,
So
yeah.
when I was
Sorry, you go.
I was going to say, when I was fresh in, 45 minutes early, I'd go make everyone a brew because I was probationer, and then I'd go and like basically just Athena. I'd go on there and I'd just have a look at kind of the nominals in the area and just wanted people and things like that. Who's in the bin in custody? Like, I'm like,
But that's all
people
stuff
know.
you need to do. You need to get our notebooks and all that checked as well. And
Same.
see if you hadn't signed your notebook off at the end of that day and like started the next shift, that your gaffer would just sign on it. Just to be like, make sure your notebook's done, because now if you end up going to court for something, you don't get anything in your notebook, you're going to look like a right dick. And you would. I know.
I remember.
What's your sort of thoughts on like current policing standards when it comes to like just any of it, mainly sort of fitness, but like, yeah, just anything.
You know, I don't know how many unfollows I'll get for it. I
Fuck
think
it.
that
You need to be honest with these things. There's something unfolded.
It is like,
Yeah.
and I am very honest, and being a copper that was so passionate about my job, and yeah, fucking hell, I miss it. I like miss going into work. I miss the camaraderie with my team more than anything. But I think that's in general, like for training, have gone through the floor. I've seen people that have passed PST that I'm like standing there going, if you were next to me, I'd literally fuck you off. I'd drive off without you. If anyone saw my like post yesterday, they'd be the shit magnet that I wouldn't want to be with. But I think the bleep test is just so old school anyway. Dropping it was probably one of the worst things we could do. I think we need to introduce something that's probably a little bit, you know.
We used to, when I joined, we only had the mile and a half. We didn't have a bleep test. Unless it was like really, really bad weather conditions, we would do a bleep test, but it was mainly the mile and a half.
I look at kind of like foot chases. The longest foot chase I've done is 4 miles, to be fair. So that was a long ass foot chase, but you don't often get them like that. But you kind of got to look at all the things you've got to do. You've got to climb over walls. You've got to pick heavy things up. You've got to run. You've got to do all. I mean, if a bloke's running at you with a chainsaw, you ain't going to moan about the bleep test being 5.4 instead of 3.7. You're going to get out of there, aren't you? So I think it needs to be up. Like, if they want to keep it a bleep test, fine. But I think it needs to change anyway. I think it needs to become kind of something a bit more representative of what we do. Like, it could be run into one end with a bag in your hand, putting the bag down, run into the other end, climbing over a box, something like that with your kit on, not in fucking trainers and shorts. That pisses me off. Like,
yeah, I think it's very easy to forget. Like, one of the girls that I coached just now, in fact, I'll not go into that one. I promised that I wouldn't. But basically, she had to like move a person the other day, and that's what she was saying. She was like, I feel so much better because she was like, I actually don't think I would have been able to do that before, like training and all that. She'd have had back. Like, there's just so much stuff that again goes into the job, and I think it's so easy. Like the chainsaw thing recently, it's so easy to forget that you're actually a cop. Do you know what I mean? Because you could go through like 3 months where you go to a call, back to the office, go to a call, nothing really happens, and then shit hits the fan, and you're like, fuck, I'm so glad that I'm like actually fit, and I go to the gym, and I go to Thai boxing, and I do all of these things. But the majority of folk don't. They just go home and eat and watch telly. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, it happened to me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I got really unfit on shift. I just got into these bad habits. I was still very much in the army mindset because I used to train. Unhealthy how much I trained in the army, to be honest. But I was still in the mindset I can eat what I want because I train loads, but I didn't train near as. I was still trying to do like 6 day splits and it being
yeah,
really inconsistent. And then I eventually just kind of gave up because I met like my other half and obviously Max. So I had Jade and Max here. Yeah, I just got, and then lockdown hit. So obviously I definitely gave up at that point. And then I remember I think turning point was having this foot chase with this bloke. So I never lost anyone. Never. I lost him. He did a number on me and dove into a house, I think. But I'm like, oh, I need to fucking do something. And I remember contacting you, going, "Look, I think I felt a bit like an idiot because I was PT. I was like, what am I doing wrong? But actually, it's all like it's a new education when you put it around shifts and stuff, and it's kind of like I learned probably more from you and kind of having that kind of background knowledge than I ever did on my PT course.
yeah. Like, I
Fact.
think that's the one thing. Like, you can know everything you need to know about nutrition and training and all the sort of perfect things about it, but then see when you go into like shift work, it's completely different.
Mm.
And it like completely different. I think that's why there's so many people that we work with now that have done so many different things, and we're kind of like a last resort for a lot of folk, and then they come to us and they're like, "I'm so glad I did this. I wish I'd just done this sooner." So, well, yeah, no one else is going to get it. Like, I think even more so for the police. I think if you have shifts, I mean, I think your coach should probably have worked shifts at some point, but even more so in the police, because the
Oh,
majority of stuff that I speak to clients about on check-in is police work, at
100%.
work, shit they've dealt with, stressful situations, like being injured on duty, like so many different things.
Well, it's kind of like so many people come to me from like PTs that just literally have lived in a gym. They've been on a gym floor their entire life. Like I had a girl come to me the other day from another PT. Basically said like you can tell the difference in your check-ins. She said like your check-ins are 5-6 minutes with loads of information and trying to teach you something every single time, whereas his were 1 minute.
Yeah.
Like she's like, all that you can tell how the plan's tailored. You can tell
Mhm.
that you kind of a shift work when you talk. You go, don't worry about the steps that day. Just make them up on another day. Don't stress about it.
Mhm.
Um, but she's just
It's just like the
enjoying it.
basic things. Like, even
Yeah,
I think that's the one thing. Like, people enjoy it and they go, right, okay, but this is like, see the amount of people who've said to me like they've done other things and they feel almost like an outsider doing those things. Or
yeah,
their coach will say to them, you need to eat at 8 o'clock at night. Like, why? Tell me why I need to do that. Why do I need to eat this specific meal at 8 o'clock at night, specifically, when you're dealing with some
it's
double horror bag domestic incident
yeah.
or a fatal road accident, and you go, oh, sorry, mate, everyone just stop a minute, I'm going to go and eat my chicken and rice at 8 o'clock. Like, it's never going to work.
You got to
Never.
kind of ask yourself when you go into a process like this: do you want to be a bodybuilder? Because if you do, go someone else. If you want to just get fit and lead a healthy life and know how to do it around shifts and to actually enjoy your training, then this is the place for you, isn't it? So
You
it's
can still
like,
get as big and as strong as you want, but
well,
you still don't have to eat chicken and rice at 8 o'clock at night.
honestly,
There's, there's no need
like,
to do it.
I faked tan today and I looked in the mirror and I went, fucking hell, I could actually go on stage. Like, just,
Mhm.
yeah, I probably wouldn't win, but I was like, and that's just having been in a calorie deficit and keeping my protein nice and high. It's just kind
Yeah.
of like you
And
don't
that's the
need to.
thing, like, it's focusing on like the basics of it, right? Okay, try and hit protein targets, try and hit calorie targets. You're still going to get like 90% of the results that you would get, if not more than that, from eating at specific times, worrying about like
Yeah,
meal timing, post workout, pre workout nutrition, nutrient partitioning, like all these different things just don't actually matter.
yeah, load of tosh,
It's
mate.
just annoying as fuck. I think people just talk about them to try and sound smart. It's just, you just sound like a dick. I mean, especially to folk who are on shift and you're trying to stress the importance of like post workout protein or post workout carbohydrates, and you're like, mate, I literally dealt with like a fatal house fire last night. This is not important. And it's just, I think as soon as it clicks for people to go, actually, that isn't important. Like, I can still do this with
Yeah, like
McDonald's meal deals. Like,
it doesn't. protein synthesis happens so long after you train that actually it's an optimum time. It's fucking great, but actually you can eat it at any point and still get the same. It's very similar benefits from it. So it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
oh,
And
honestly,
again, no one cares.
no one
Like,
give
I
up.
don't really care. Like, I like my physique. I like looking good. I like feeling good. I like building muscle tissue. I like focusing on that aspect of the training. I still don't worry about trying to get protein in post workout because it's just so insignificant.
No.
Like, it really just doesn't matter. It's like, I think the best case scenario on paper or the best case scenario per person who's actually in the emergency services, because it's going to be completely different to each person. And it,
Well, yeah, people don't know what protein synthesis is anyway. They're like, do I need protein? Yeah,
but
this sounds
do they need
cheap.
to know though? This is the thing. Like, I hate it when coaches try and teach people weird shit
Nah.
like that. Like, do you need to know what protein synthesis is? Do
The
you
main
even
thing,
need to know? Yeah.
yeah, the main thing I try and teach people is obviously the training side of things, the calorie side of things, and how being in a deficit works, and what protein does.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah, I think it's the
literally
basics. People, why do I need protein? Because it'll help you build muscle tissue. It'll help you stay
yeah,
full. The more muscle tissue you've got,
yeah.
the more calories your body burn at best. Like all the basic things. All right, okay. It's not like here's like the fucking things about sliding filament theory. That's piss. No one
Yeah.
actually.
And yeah, they're just
No
freaking
one needs to know that. And it's just as much as you can simplify it for people. Again, most of the stuff I speak to folk about on check-in is job stuff, like dealing with stress, dealing with incidents, being held on, even like stupid things like work nights out and
yeah,
stress from getting complaints. Like one of the guys the other week, his mate at work was getting leathered, put a 2-1, he turned up first. Like all these kind of different things. Like those are the stuff that people need to feel confident talking to their coach about. And you understand how difficult that is to deal with and come down from, as opposed to these other people who've never dealt with that,
yeah.
never been first on scene for some horrific, like fatal incident. Do you know what I mean? How have you found sort of like transitioning away from the police into doing this full time? I mean, coaching, not doing this
Yeah,
episode
no,
one of
yeah,
this
no,
podcast.
and yeah, not being on, not
For
being
anyone watching,
I do you know what? My transition out of the army to the police was so hard. Like I got really down and stuff about it. Because I just didn't have my mates here. But actually this I thought I was gonna find quite hard, but I haven't. And I think it's gonna honestly, I think it's because I'm so busy I just don't have time to think about it.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you get so much more like I get to save shitloads of money because I don't go out to Costas and spend money.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to do the nice things like take Max to school. I get to be here, obviously for the dogs,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to just kind of work things around my day. So if we want to go out, then I can just arrange it around the week and stuff. And it's just it's nice, isn't it? And then actually, when you do go out, do I miss
Because
what?
I still miss being a cop like
Oh yeah,
massively.
100%.
Fucking like
Like stories that when I get the stories on check-in, like this happened this week, I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I want that story. I want
Sometimes my mates will text me with like something juicy that's happened, and they're like, "Mate, this." I don't think it ever
those,
leaves you. Like I don't think it ever leaves you. Like even the sort of camaraderie side of things. Like I mean,
yeah,
there was a few people I had disagreements with in the job, but I mean, maybe like 2 people or something across fucking nearly 10, well, like 8 years. But every single person that I worked with in the job on any other shift, like there was no one that I actually like disliked. Do you know what I mean? I think
no,
everyone's just so similar to. I think that's probably why it attracts very similar people, so everyone gets on really, really well. But I do miss that side of it. I miss like the good stuff. I don't miss the kind of shit stuff of being like on response with numbers, getting rest days cancelled and all that. So
yeah.
you still.
I was actually chatting. He's my client at the moment, first ever client. He's still with me over a year later.
Good sign.
He's
Good sign.
yeah, he was. We were on the phone the other day, just chatting. He was just like, "Oh, I miss you being on," because he was on team with me. When I first joined, he was like, "I miss you being on team," and I was like, "Me too, mate." And he was just like, "Best shift ever. What was it?" And I was like, "Bank holiday." Like we just did this bank holiday together, and it was wild. I don't think we actually dealt with anything properly, but we just had a proper laugh doing it, and it was just
Yeah.
like, it's honestly the best shift I've ever done. And
I mean, it was because it was basically like getting paid to go to work with your mates. Like, see, even for the weekend back shifts when I was in the BRU, like we literally just used to load the car up with like juice and Haribo and chocolate, and you just drive about the town centre like jailing folk. Like, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, how are you getting paid to go and do? Like, I would go and do that for free. If somebody said to me, "You can go do that for free tonight," I'd go and do it. 100%.
Yeah, like when you think about, I was like, do I be a special? I just honestly don't have the time. I literally don't have the time. Don't have the time. And like, I think if a member of SLT came up to me and started chopsing off, I'd just tell them where to go, because I'm like,
See,
well,
that's the thing. Now, if I went back, you probably would struggle to transition a wee bit onto shift because everything's so different than when we were on shift.
yeah.
Like, I mean, 10 years ago, I fucking joined. Like, it's completely different. It's a completely different job. I don't think it changes that much. Like, for anyone new who's gone into the job, like, you'll not notice it. But, like, I think for now, if you join 10 years going back to response, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this person trying to tell me what to do? Why is this a thing? Like, yeah.
And like, I don't know about you, but like, very much, I'm a person. If I went for promotion, I'm very much like a lead from the front sort of person. I don't want somebody that can't stay with me in a foot chase as my skipper, as my inspector. And you get some people now that I don't think they've even walked a mile and a half. I don't, honestly, like, it's really bad. Like that.
It's also not even just for them, though. I mean, I think for yourself as well. Like, I always had that sort of fear of not being like fit and strong enough. And I think, to be fair, like, obviously it was just this weird sort of conception that I had of, or like misconception that I had of myself. Because I mean, I was always 6'4" taller than everyone, bigger than everyone, more muscular than the majority of people that I worked with. But for me, it was always like this thing at the front of my mind. I thought, if someone works with me, I want them to know that they're safe with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want them to make sure or feel that they're 100% going to get home at the end of the shift. I just think some folk just don't care. They just have zero. Yeah. I know. And I think that's the thing. It's not just yourself getting home safe. It's like making sure you can actually deal with something or like keep up with a foot chase. Because if somebody turns around with a knife and your neighbour's there by himself, by herself, and you're there by yourself, fucking 500 yards back, and you can't keep up. Like, how bad you would just feel so. It would never leave you if something happened to them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What would be, just the last one then before we close off, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give yourself, like yourself when you were in the police now, about like fitness and staying on top of it, just to keep things super simple?
Complicate it.
Mm-hmm.
Just be like nutrition, and because especially with nutrition, I've seen people go for these weird, really like restrictive eating spells, and then just bomb and to go right now that I'm going to have a takeout every night for a week, and then they'll go back onto the strict eating schedule. So that, and also the training side of things. I was very much a person that would do like 6-day splits in the army. You can't do that in the police. You just got to literally pick a number of days that's suitable for yourself, that you can hit consistently every single week, and just go with it, and prioritise things like compound movements. Rather than going into the gym, I mean, and I've been guilty of it, going into the gym and doing like bicep curls and tricep extensions, things like that.
Which is fine if you have like 6 days a week that you can train and you go, right, okay, I'm going to do like an arm specialisation day, but you don't have that luxury in the post. So
of what I was going off my 6-day split as opposed to a 4-day split, where I was actually training compound movements just to allow you to train more than one part of the body at the same time, don't they? So it's just, they're the most ideal movements for shift workers. I can't even stress it enough, but don't overcomplicate it. That is literally the bit of advice I give to myself.
I do. It's a good piece of advice, isn't it? It's probably the exact same thing I would say, is just keep it simple, isn't it? No point overcomplicating it. I do. Right. Well, thank you to all 2 of us who are involved with the podcast. Anyone who watches it. Anyone watches it to the end and whatever we post it on, comment end, and I'll send you some protein or something, I guess. You need to actually watch it to the end. There's going to be
some free
comment. Yeah, free hoodie, kind of monster. That's what we'll do. Right. Anyways, mate, it was a pleasure, as always. I'll catch you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.
See you later.